had just finished shopping for our son's 21st birthday at Northgate Mall. I went ahead to grab the truck while she stepped aside to take a call from the hospital. I didn't think twice about it. That was her life, always on call. I was almost at the vehicle when an older parking attendant approached me. "Is that your wife?" he asked quietly. I nodded. He glanced back at her, then pulled out his phone. "Sir, you might want to see this." 30 seconds later, what he showed me made my stomach drop. "Welcome to Family Revenge Stories. I'm truly grateful you're here. Before we dive deeper, tell me in the comments, where are you watching from today? I love seeing how far these stories travel. And when you reach the end rate, this story from 1 to 10, your feedback helps me craft even stronger, more powerful stories for you. Also, a brief note. This narrative includes fictional elements woven in for storytelling and reflection. Any resemblance to real names or places is purely coincidental, but the lessons about family trust and consequences are very real. Saturday afternoons in September usually meant yard work or Seahawks pregame prep. But this Saturday, September 7th, 2024, Diane had convinced me to spend the afternoon at Northgate Mall hunting for Evan's 21st birthday gift. "He's not a kid anymore," she'd said that morning over coffee. "Let's get him something grown up." We'd spent 3 hours wandering through department stores, finally settling on a Tag Heuer watch that made my wallet weep. But Evan was graduating with his engineering degree next spring, and Diane insisted he deserved something that would last. We were heading back to the truck, shopping bag swinging, when her phone rang. "Seattle Grace," she said, glancing at the screen. Her expression shifted instantly from relaxed to alert. "This is Diane Thornton." I watched her face change as she listened. Her free hand came up to rub her temple the way it always did when stressed. "How high is the fever? CT results right. Give me 20 minutes. She ended the call with an apologetic smile. "Emergency in the ICU, doctor. Prescott's out sick, and they need authorization for a transfer." "I'm so sorry, babe." "It's fine," I said, swallowing disappointment. "That's the job. I need to call Dr. Vaughn to coordinate." She was already pulling up contacts. "Can you grab the truck? I'll meet you at the entrance. You know how he is with details. This might take a few minutes." Dr. Vaughn. The name didn't register then, it would later. I took her bags and headed across the parking garage while she stepped aside, phone already at her ear. Our silver Silverado was parked on level 3 west corner, same general area. I always chose a habit from my military days when finding your vehicle quickly mattered. The concrete structure was packed with Saturday shoppers, fluorescent lights, casting harsh shadows across rows of SUVs. I was 30 feet from the truck when the parking attendant approached. He was older, late 50s maybe, with gray-streaked dark hair and a weathered face. His uniform hung loose on a wiry frame, but his eyes caught me. Sharp. Careful. Like a man about to deliver bad news and hating it. "Excuse me, sir." I stopped keys halfway out. "Yeah." He glanced past me toward where Diane stood with her back to us, still on her phone. When he looked back, something in his expression made my stomach tighten. "Is that your wife?" he asked quietly. "The woman in the blue jacket." I followed his gesture. Diane was 50 feet away, animated on her call, gesturing the way she always did when explaining something complex. Even from here I could hear her laugh, bright and genuine, that laugh. The one I hadn't heard directed at me in months. "Yeah, that's Diane." My voice came out cautious. "Why?" His jaw tightened. He pulled out his phone, tapped the screen, then seemed to steel himself. "My name's Vincent. I work here Tuesday through Saturday." He paused. 2 weeks ago, I saw something I've been debating whether to tell you about." Another pause. "Because what I saw, you need to know." Cold dread washed over me. "What are you talking about?" He turned his phone toward me. The video was grainy security camera footage from a high angle. But the timestamp was crystal clear. August 24th, 2024. 3:47 p.m. This same garage. This same level. There was Diane, with a man in surgical scrubs. He stood too close, hand resting on her hip with casual familiarity. She laughed that same laugh, and then he leaned in. The kiss wasn't quick or uncertain. It was practiced, comfortable, the kind that came from repetition. 30 seconds of video, 25 years of marriage shattered. I watched it twice, forcing myself to catalog details through the shock. The man was younger, mid-40s maybe, fit, confident. And Diane's body language was relaxed, leaning into him. This wasn't their first time. This wasn't a mistake. "What I debated showing you," Vincent said quietly, giving me space. "But if it were my wife, I'd want to know. I'd want the truth before I wasted more years on a lie." My throat felt like broken glass. "Who is he?" "Don't know his name. But he's been here 4 times in the last month. Always around 3:30. Always in those dark blue surgical scrubs. Always with her." He paused. "Not after the first time, something felt off. So I started keeping records. Records, security footage, evidence." The word cut through my shock. This wasn't just some random guy feeling sorry for a stranger. Vincent had been watching, documenting. "Why?" "Oh, Mr. Thornton," I said automatically. "Caleb Thornton." Something flickered across his face. Recognition maybe, but it vanished before I could read it. "Mr. Thornton, I'm sorry I had to be the one to show you this." His voice carried genuine regret. "But better to know now than keep living in the dark, right?" I nodded, not trusting my voice. In the distance, Diane laughed again, still oblivious. She looked happy, carefree, like a woman who'd successfully balanced her Saturday with her husband, and her Saturday with her colleague, her lover. My mind raced through memories, rewriting them. Every late hospital shift, every weekend on call, every time she'd come home exhausted, smelling like antiseptic. How many had been real? How many had been him? But even through the rage and betrayal churning in my gut, 12 years of military intelligence training kicked in. I'd spent a career as an analyst, learning to process information without emotion, to wait for the complete picture before acting, to understand that premature moves lost wars. Don't react. Gather intelligence. Confirm everything. Then strike with precision. "Thank you," I told Vincent. My voice was steady, controlled. "I appreciate you telling me." He studied me for a long moment. "You're not going to confront her right now?" Not yet." I glanced at Diane, wrapping up her call. "Not here." Something like respect crossed his features. "If you need anything more, evidence, testimony, whatever, you know where to find me. Tuesday through Saturday, 2 to 10. I filed that away and forced myself toward the truck. By the time Diane reached me, I had my expression locked down. Neutral. Just tired from shopping. "Crisis averted," she said brightly, sliding into the passenger seat. "You know how Dr. Vaughn is. Always panicking over nothing." She set her phone in the cup holder and smiled, that smile I'd fallen for 26 years ago. "Thanks for grabbing the car, babe. My feet are killing me." Dr. Vaughn. The name landed like a physical blow. The man in the scrubs. The man she'd been kissing 2 weeks ago. The man she'd just spent 10 minutes coordinating with. "No problem," I said, starting the engine. She talked the whole drive home, hospital politics. Evan's birthday plans, a new restaurant we should try. I made appropriate sounds, nodded at the right moments, even smiled when she touched my arm. But inside, everything had changed. The man who would have confronted her in that garage, who would have let emotion drive his choices, demanded answers, made a scene. That man died somewhere between Vincent's video and the driver's seat. The one behind the wheel now was different. Someone who understood that showing your cards too early meant losing everything. Someone who knew real victory required patience, planning, and cold calculation. Dr. Vaughn. I filed the name with everything else. The timestamps, the scrubs, Vincent's careful documentation. The way Diane said his name, familiar, casual, like someone she spoke with daily. My hand stayed steady on the wheel. My voice stayed calm, answering her questions. My face showed nothing but a tired husband after a long day of shopping. But behind that mask, a different man was taking notes, calculating, planning. This wasn't over. It was just beginning. The house was dark when we pulled into the driveway. Bellevue's suburbs had that September quiet lawn sprinklers on timers, porch lights glowing yellow, the distant hum of I-405 fading to white noise. Normal, peaceful, a different lifetime. Diane hummed while brushing her teeth some off-key pop song. I watched through the bathroom mirror as she caught my eye and smiled, genuine warm, nothing to hide. Long day, she said, rinsing her toothbrush. But Evan's going to love that watch. Yeah, he will. She kissed my cheek and pulled back the covers on her side. Our bed. The one we'd picked out 15 years ago. The one where we'd whispered about our son's grades and college applications and whether he was ready for the world. How much of that had been real? I went through my routine on autopilot: teeth contacts, out phone on the nightstand. Diane was already under the covers, scrolling through something on her phone. Blue light illuminated her focused expression. Then she placed it under her pillow. Not on the nightstand, not beside her, under the pillow. I'd watched her do this for months without questioning it. My alarm's too loud on the nightstand, she'd explained once. This way the vibration wakes me without disturbing you. Considerate, thoughtful, reasonable. Now I knew better. I climbed in, turned off my lamp, stared at the ceiling. The house settled with familiar creaks. The furnace kicked on. A dog barked twice down the street. Diane's breathing evened out within minutes. She'd always been a quick sleeper, planes, waiting rooms, the couch during Seahawks games. I used to envy that. Tonight I watched the digital clock. 11:47, 12:13, 1:28. At 2:04 a.m. her phone buzzed under the pillow. Soft, muffled. But I was so wired I heard it clearly. Diane shifted. Reached under the pillow, fingers brushing the phone. Then she smiled. Still asleep. A small, unconscious curve of her lips. Who makes you smile like that, even in your dreams? Dr. Vaughn, dark blue scrubs, confident hands. That practiced kiss. I forced myself to breathe. 4 counts in 4, hold 4 out. Box breathing from my army days. Staying calm under fire. Because this was fire. My mind cycled through the past 8 months. Vincent had said 4 times in the last month, which meant this had been going on longer. 8 months of signs I'd missed. The gym bag in her trunk that never needed fresh clothes. The new perfume she'd started wearing in June, floral, expensive, not her usual scent. Her phone always face down. Now passcode locked, notifications hidden. Work's been stressful, she'd said when I'd asked. Hospital politics, budget cuts. I'd believed her. Why wouldn't I? 25 years. A son, a mortgage, joint accounts, retirement dreams. You don't question solid ground until you're falling through it. The rage came in waves. I wanted to shake her awake, demand answers, throw that phone across the room. Make her look at me while I asked who Dr. Vaughn was and how long she'd been lying. But under the rage ran something colder. 12 years as a military intelligence analyst had taught me that emotion kills strategy. Acting on impulse gets people hurt. The person who gathers information and strikes at the right moment wins, not the person who strikes first. If I confronted her now, what did I have? 1 security video. A suspicious phone habit. Gut feeling. She'd deny it, explain it away. Maybe accuse me of paranoia, of not trusting her. And I'd have shown my hand before knowing the full game. No, better to investigate. Document. Build evidence that would hold up when I needed it. I needed a private investigator. Someone who could follow her, confirm Vincent's video, find more. Bank records, phone records, patterns. Because if this was real, and I knew it was, I needed to protect myself. Protect Evan, protect everything I'd built. At 3:47 a.m. her phone buzzed again. This time she didn't smile. But she reached for it, still asleep, pulling it closer like a child with a teddy bear. I closed my eyes and counted breaths. Morning crawled forward. 4:15, 5:02, 6:33. When Diane's alarm went off at 7, I'd been awake 8 hours straight. She stretched, yawned, rolled over, smiling. Morning, babe. Sleep okay. Like a rock. Downstairs, I went through motions. Started the coffee maker she'd insisted we needed 2 Christmases ago. Pulled out eggs, butter bread. Set the table while she showered. When she came down, hair damp, smelling like vanilla shampoo, she was already talking. Evan texted last night. He's thinking about coming home next weekend. We should take him to that steakhouse he loves. She poured coffee, added cream. Oh, and I've been looking at kitchen remodels. Those granite countertops we talked about. I think we should finally do them. She sat at the island, scrolling through Pinterest while I scrambled eggs. I nodded. Made sounds. Asked about countertop colors. Normal. Automatic. A performance I could deliver in my sleep. Because behind the breakfast routine and the coffee and the conversation about kitchen renovations, I was calculating. Vincent's offer. If you need anything, evidence, testimony, you know where to find me. First move. Find a private investigator. Get documentation. Build the case. Second move. Protect assets. Talk to a lawyer. Understand my options. Third move. Wait. Watch. Let her think everything was fine while I gathered ammunition. Diane laughed at something on her phone. Look at this backsplash. Too modern. Little bit, I said, plating eggs. What about the subway tile? She smiled. You always know what I'm thinking. No, Diane. I never did. I set breakfast in front of her. Poured orange juice. Sat across from her at the table we'd refinished together 5 years ago. She talked about Evan's visit, about calling him later to confirm plans. About whether we should repaint the guest room before he came home. And I listened. Responded. Played my part. Because this was war now. Maybe it had been war for 8 months while I'd slept through the invasion. But I was awake now. And in war, the side that strikes smarter always wins. Sunday morning sunlight filtered through the windows, catching dust in the air. The house was quiet except for the refrigerator's hum and a distant lawnmower. Once those sounds meant peace. Now they meant privacy. I opened my laptop and typed Private Investigator Seattle. 247 results. I narrowed it down: Divorce Investigations, Seattle Surveillance Expert. 30 minutes later, I found Brady Merrick. His website was clean and direct. 15 years experience, former Seattle PD, domestic cases, discretion guaranteed. No flashy promises, just competence. His office was in SoDo inside a converted warehouse. Not the cliché trench coat setup. Better. I called. Merrick Investigations. My name is Caleb Thornton. I need to hire someone. Today. A pause. What's the situation? My wife is having an affair. I need to know everything. 2 o'clock. Address is on the site. Come alone. He hung up. Brady's office was on the 3rd floor, past a yoga studio and a design firm. The door was unmarked. Inside the space was spare desk cabinets, coffee maker. No family photos, no clutter. Brady looked about 40. Lean, controlled. His eyes assessed me quickly. Former cop, without question. Mr. Thornton, he said, gesturing to a chair. Tell me what you know. I gave him the outline. The parking garage footage Vincent had shown me. 8 months of warning signs. The phone hidden under her pillow. 2 a.m. messages. He asked sharp questions. Her workplace schedule, joint accounts, children. When I finished, he leaned back. You're calm. Most people aren't. I was military intelligence, I said. Emotion clouds, judgment. Something shifted in his expression. What exactly do you want? Everything. Who he is. How long. Where they meet. Financial movement, hers and his. Communications, if possible. I need something that stands in court. He nodded. $150 an hour plus expenses. 2 weeks for a full profile. I'll pay double if you do it in one. He paused. 300 plus expenses. Knowledge is leverage. Right now, she has it. He studied me, then amended the contract. 1 week. No guarantees on depth if she's cautious. Prioritize identity and financials. Fair. He stood and offered his hand. Updates via encrypted email. Password changes daily. Don't access from a shared device. Understood. At the door, he added, whatever you're feeling, don't show it. If she senses suspicion, she cleans up. I've already started. Tuesday evening brought steady Seattle rain. Diane was on the couch watching a hospital drama. I was in my office door, cracked open, waiting. At 7:47 p.m., the encrypted email arrived. A separate text delivered the password. I entered it carefully. The report opened. Brady had identified him, Dr. Preston Vaughn, 45, cardiac surgeon at Seattle Grace Hospital. Lives in a downtown condo on Westlake Avenue. Then the activity log. Monday yesterday they met at the Fairmont Olympic Hotel. Room 847 registered under his name. She entered at 2:15 p.m., exited at 4:47 p.m. 2 hours and 32 minutes. I read it 3 times. 2 hours and 32 minutes while I reviewed blueprints at a job site. While I texted her asking what she wanted for dinner. While I believed we were building a future. Tuesday today they met again. Northgate parking garage. Level 3. Physical contact observed. 8 minutes. The same garage where Vincent had first shown me footage. They were comfortable. Repeating patterns. The financial summary noted irregular transfers in our joint account. Brady was still investigating, but preliminary review suggested funds were moving. I leaned back. Dr. Preston Vaughn. A real man with a title and an address. A person who had been touching my wife, booking hotel rooms, messaging her at 2 in the morning. My chest tightened. 25 years reduced to timestamps and receipts. But beneath the pain was something colder information. Evidence. Exactly what I'd paid for. Babe, Diane called from the living room. You coming? I closed the laptop. Locked it. Inhale 4, hold 4, exhale 4. Box breathing. Then I walked out and kissed the top of her head. Sorry. Work email? What are we watching? Grey's Anatomy. The one where the surgeon's marriage falls apart. The irony nearly made me laugh. I poured 2 glasses of Pinot Noir, the one she'd insisted we splurge on last month. Sat beside her on the couch we'd picked out together during the remodel. On-screen actors portrayed dramatic betrayal. Beside me, Diane leaned into my shoulder, as she had for decades. Familiar? Automatic? She had no idea I'd just read a report detailing her Monday afternoon in a hotel room with another man. I sipped wine and considered what I was becoming. A man who could sit calmly beside his wife while mentally cataloging evidence. A man who understood that confrontation now would only drive her to a lawyer, drain accounts, erase proof. A man who knew justice required patience. On television, the fictional wife discovered the affair and threw her husband out immediately. Emotional, satisfying, reckless. I took another sip. That's not how you win. Wednesday evening I went back to the parking garage. I'd thought about it all day through a morning site inspection, where I'd barely registered the contractor's questions, through lunch I didn't taste, through an afternoon of reviewing blueprints without seeing them. Vincent's careful attention. The way he'd looked at me when I'd said my name. The deliberate documentation. You don't keep records like that unless you have a reason. I found him on the 3rd level during his shift, guiding an SUV into a tight spot. When the driver left, he turned and saw me. No surprise crossed his face. Like he'd been expecting this. Before I reveal what he told me in that bar, I need to ask you something. Type yes in the comments if you want to know the truth about Vincent. Type no if you think some secrets should stay buried. I need to see you're still here. Quick reminder. This story includes some dramatized details for storytelling purposes. If that's not for you, no hard feelings if you exit now. But if you're staying, buckle up. We need to talk, I said. Not here, somewhere private. He studied me for a moment, then nodded. There's a bar 3 blocks east. Murphy's. I'm off in 20 minutes. Murphy's was the kind of dive that had probably looked the same since the 70s. Dim lighting, scarred wooden bar, Rainier beer signs. And the smell of decades of cigarette smoke baked into everything, despite the smoking ban. A handful of regulars hunched over drinks, minds their own business. We took a booth in the back. Both ordered beer. Neither of us touched it. I hired a private investigator, I said without preamble. He confirmed everything you showed me. The affair, the timeline, everything. I leaned forward. But what I don't understand is why you told me in the first place. You don't know me. You could have just let it happen. Stayed out of it. Vincent was quiet for a long time. His hands rested on the table, weathered and scarred working hands. His jaw worked like he was chewing words, trying to figure out which ones to spit out. I could have, he finally said. Part of me wanted to. Part of me thought maybe you deserved it, the perfect life falling apart. Why would I deserve it? Because you got everything I didn't. He met my eyes. But then I watched you. Really watched you. And I realized you didn't know about any of it. The affair. The other thing. What other thing? Vincent reached into his jacket and pulled out a photograph. Old, creased at the edges, colors faded. He set it on the table between us. A young Asian woman, maybe early 20s, holding a baby. Beside her stood a white man in his 30s, suit and tie, hand resting on her shoulder, but not quite touching the child. I looked at the man's face. The eyes, my father's eyes. The floor dropped out from under me. His name was Thomas Thornton, Vincent said quietly. 58 years ago, he had an affair with my mother while on business in Sacramento. She was a translator at a conference. He was married, had a 2-year-old son back in Seattle. Me. He'd had me. He left before I was born. Never came back. Never sent money. Nothing. Vincent's voice was flat, decades of pain compressed into monotone. My mother raised me alone. Worked 3 jobs. Never told me his name until I was 15. When I finally tracked him down and showed up at his office, you know what he said? I couldn't speak. He said, I have a family. I have a son. You're a mistake. Don't come back here. If you tell him, I'll destroy you and your mother. Vincent's hands clenched. So I didn't. For 43 years I kept that secret. My mind raced. My father, the man who'd taught me to throw a football, who'd come to every little league game, who'd worked overtime to pay for college, had done this. Had another son he'd threatened into silence. How did you find me? I managed. Vincent pulled out another document. A DNA lab report. My name at the top. His at the bottom. Probability of half-sibling relationship 99.97%. 3 years ago, I took a DNA sample from a coffee cup you left at a construction site. I was a licensed private investigator back then, mostly retired now, but I still had connections. Once I confirmed it, He trailed off. I didn't know what to do. Part of me wanted to confront you. Part of me wanted to see if your perfect life was really perfect. Part of me just wanted to protect you from getting hurt the way I did. So you took a job at the parking garage 6 months ago. After I'd watched you for a while, learned your routine, your wife's routine. His expression darkened. 4 months ago, I saw her with Preston. I recognized the signs, the looking over shoulders, the quick touches, the practiced way they moved together. I've done enough domestic surveillance to know what cheating looks like, and you kept watching. I kept records, photos, timestamps, because I thought if it came to it, you'd need evidence. The kind that holds up. He paused. And because I knew what it felt like to be lied to about family, I couldn't let her do that to you without you knowing. My brother. This stranger was my brother. Brady Merrick, I said slowly. The PI I hired. Is he... my son? Vincent's mouth twisted. When you called looking for an investigator, I told him to take your case. To do it right. To help you the way I couldn't help myself all those years ago. We sat in silence. 2 men who shared DNA and nothing else, connected by a father who'd failed us both in different ways. I'm sorry, Vincent finally said. For all of it. For how you found out. For... Don't. I cut him off. You gave me the truth. That's more than he ever did for either of us. Something shifted in his expression. Relief, maybe. Or the beginning of understanding that we were on the same side. He cleared his throat. There's something else. Brady found it in his preliminary investigation. What? His money. Your wife and Preston, they're not just having an affair. They're moving money. Significant amounts. From your joint accounts into something else. My blood went cold. How much? Joe Brady's still tracking it. But based on what he's seen so far, Vincent met my eyes. Enough that this isn't just about betrayal anymore. It's fraud. And just like that, everything changed again. This wasn't just my wife cheating. It was something much worse. Thursday evening, Vincent asked me to come to his apartment. There's something you need to see, he said on the phone, voice measured. Not urgent, controlled. The kind of tone that meant bad news was coming, but it would be delivered carefully. I'd already had enough bad news for one lifetime. His place was in Capitol Hill, an old brick building squeezed between coffee shops and vintage stores. 3rd floor. No elevator. The hallway smelled of garlic and damp carpet. Vincent opened the door before I knocked. Come in. I stepped inside and froze. The wall opposite the entrance was covered floor to ceiling. Photographs. Dozens. Maybe hundreds. Surveillance shots, some grainy, some crisp. Diane's face appeared over and over. Entering hotels. Sitting in cafes. Laughing. Touching a man's arm. Getting into cars I didn't recognize. Between the photos were printed bank statements, business registrations, and timeline charts connected with red string. In the center was an 8x10 photo of Dr. Preston Vaughn in surgical scrubs, smiling easily at the camera. Jesus, I whispered. Vincent closed the door. I know how it looks. But this is how investigations work. You map it until the whole pattern shows. I moved closer, drawn to the upper left corner of the wall. February 14th. Valentine's Day. Diane entering the Fairmont Olympic Hotel at 2:17 p.m. Another photo of her leaving at 5:43 p.m. 3.5 hours. I had been in Redmond that afternoon. Site inspection. I texted her around 6 asking about dinner. She'd said she was exhausted and wanted takeout. She'd been with him 8 months, Vincent said quietly. I've documented 6, but Brady traced it back further. Valentine's Day is the first confirmed hotel visit. 8 months of lies. 8 months of goodnight kisses that tasted like betrayal. My eyes followed the timeline. March 7th, parking garage. March 23rd, downtown restaurant. April 9th, another hotel. May 2nd, her car outside his condo for 4 hours during a board meeting. The pattern repeated with precision. Then I noticed the business documents pinned near the center. What Summit Healthcare Partners, LLC? I asked. Vincent stepped beside me. Registered March 20th. Co-signed by Diane Thornton and Preston Vaughn. My stomach tightened. On paper, it's a medical equipment supplier, he said. They do sell some equipment legitimate enough to pass inspection, but the pricing is inflated. A handful of small clinics are involved. He handed me bank statements. Transfers. 5,000, 12,000, 8,000, 15,000. Over and over. From an account number I recognized. Our joint savings. How much I asked. 180,000 over 6 months. Small increments to avoid detection. Together, it adds up. $180,000. Gone. There's more, Vincent said. He showed me news articles and court records. Preston has done this 3 times before. Portland, 2019. San Francisco, 2021. Denver, 2022. Same model. He pointed at a chart. He targets hospital administrators, married women between 45 and 50, women with assets, inheritances, joint accounts. He seduces them, convinces them to form a business partnership, creates a clean-looking LLC, slowly drains funds, then relocates before anyone pieces it together. Why hasn't anyone stopped him? Because they're ashamed. To expose him, they'd have to admit the affair. Risk careers, risk marriages. He keeps each case under major felony thresholds when possible, and he makes every woman feel chosen. I stared at the list of cities. Portland, San Francisco, Denver, Seattle, a pattern. Who were they? I asked. I don't have all the names. But this one, he handed me a card. Dr. Audrey Kingsley, San Francisco. She was victim number 2. She's also his ex-wife. He married one, early on, before he refined the process. She lost her job when the affair surfaced. He drained a $400,000 inheritance before disappearing. Vincent met my eyes. She's been waiting for someone to stop him. When I explained your situation, she agreed to talk. She's flying in tonight. When? Tomorrow, if you want. I turned back to the wall. A recent photo caught my attention. Diane in a cafe last week laughing. Preston leaning forward, intent on her face. She looked alive, happy. She had no idea. She doesn't know, does she? I asked. Almost certainly not, Vincent replied. That's his skill. He makes every woman believe she's the exception, that what they have is rare. I thought about Diane defending him at dinner, about the way she said his name, about how convinced she must be that this was love. She was a victim, like Audrey Kingsley, like the others. But that didn't erase what she'd done to our marriage, or the money, or the deception. I turned to Vincent, my brother, a man I'd known for less than a week, but who now stood at the center of this unraveling. Set up the meeting with Audrey Kingsley, I said. Tomorrow. He nodded. I want to know everything. Friday morning I called my sister. Bryn, I need your help. Legal help. Silence. Bryn Whitmore didn't do silence. 25 years as a divorce attorney had trained her to fill every pause with strategy. But this time she was quiet for 3 long seconds. Come to my office, she said at last. Now. Her office sat on the 10th floor of a downtown high-rise overlooking Elliott Bay. Corner suite, expensive furniture, diplomas and bar certifications framed along one wall. The kind of office you earn after decades of winning custody wars and dismantling joint assets. She closed the door behind me. Bryn was 4 years older, sharp-featured gray threading through her dark hair, gray she'd stopped dyeing years ago. Gray makes opposing counsel underestimate me, she used to say. Sit, she said now. Talk. So I did. I told her everything. The parking garage footage. Vincent, the half-brother I never knew existed, born from our father's affair 58 years ago. The wall of surveillance photos. 8 months of lies. Preston Vaughn's pattern of seduction and financial manipulation in 4 cities. The LLC Summit Healthcare Partners, co-signed by my wife and her lover. $180,000 siphoned from our joint account in small, deliberate transfers. Bryn didn't interrupt. Her face moved through shock anger, then settled into the cold focus I'd seen in courtrooms. When I finished, she said one word. Bastards. Then she opened her laptop. Here's where you stand legally, she said. You have grounds for at-fault divorce based on adultery. Washington is technically no fault, but documented adultery still influences asset division in certain contexts. The financial transfers strengthen your position significantly. And if that LLC involved interstate electronic transactions, we're looking at potential federal wire fraud. What are my options? She didn't hesitate. Monday morning, we file for divorce. We cite adultery and financial misconduct. At the same time, we file an emergency motion to freeze all joint accounts. That prevents her from moving or hiding additional funds. She paused, studying me. What do you want, Caleb? Not the legal answer, the real one. I'd already decided. I want the house. I want every dollar back. And I want her to understand exactly what she destroyed. Bryn's gaze sharpened. You're not asking for fairness. I'm asking for precision. She smiled slightly. Good. She pulled out a legal pad. Step 1, documentation. Every report from your PI. Every surveillance photo, every financial statement, hotel receipts, time-stamped evidence. We build a case she cannot spin. Vincent's been documenting for 6 months. Excellent. She continued writing. Step 2. Emergency account freeze. Once approved, and with this evidence, it will be she cannot access funds without court authorization. She tapped her pen thoughtfully. Step 3. The house. Did Dad ever update the mortgage structure after Mom died? No. Why? She turned her laptop toward me. Because he inserted a protection clause when you refinanced. If the marriage dissolves under proven adultery, his estate retains an interest in the property. That protects your equity. She forfeits her claim. I stared at her. You're serious? Dad had seen too many men get wiped out in divorce. He drafted it to shield you. She gave me a look. Yes, ironic, considering his own history. But he protected you. Another layer I hadn't known existed. Step 4. Bryn said we leveraged the LLC fraud. Participation in financial misconduct can shift asset division heavily in your favor. She didn't just cheat. She diverted joint funds. Courts take that seriously. Will it hold? With this level of documentation, yes. Especially if the FBI opens a file. What about Evan? Her expression softened. He's 20, no custody issues. You tell him when you're ready. Legally, he's separate. I nodded, keeping the DNA question I'd been wrestling with to myself. One battle at a time, Caleb Bryn said quietly, leaning forward. Once we file, this ends. Completely. No reconciliation window. Are you certain? My marriage ended 8 months ago, I replied. I just learned about it last week. She held my gaze, then nodded. Then we finish it properly. She reached for her phone. Judge Williams owes me a favor. I'll secure an emergency hearing Monday afternoon for temporary orders. That gives us the weekend to finalize everything. Thank you. Don't thank me yet, she said. This will get ugly. Diane will fight. Preston will hire counsel the moment he senses pressure. If federal investigators step in, it escalates quickly. I have Vincent. I have Brady. I have 6 months of documentation. And now I have you. That earned a different smile, less attorney, more sister. Yeah, she said. You do. When I stepped out of her office, my phone buzzed. Vincent. Audrey Kingsley confirmed for tomorrow, 2 p.m. Ballard Cafe. She has evidence. A lot. I texted back, I'll be there. 3 days ago, I'd been shopping for my son's birthday present, believing I was in a solid marriage. I'd been blind, comfortable, trusting. Now I had a private investigator, a half-brother with a wall of evidence, an ex-wife of my wife's lover flying in with documentation, and the best divorce attorney in the city drafting emergency motions. I wasn't reacting anymore. I was building a case. Saturday afternoon, I met Dr. Audrey Kingsley at a coffee shop in Ballard. She was already there when I arrived, sitting at a corner table away from the windows. 47, polished in that professional way that spoke of years climbing corporate ladders. Dark suit, minimal jewelry, hair pulled back neat. But it was her eyes that told the real story, tired in a way that sleep couldn't fix, the kind of exhaustion that came from surviving something that should have destroyed you. "Ah, Mr. Thornton." She stood as I approached, offered her hand. Firm grip, steady eye contact. Whatever Preston had done to her, she hadn't let it break her completely. "Thank you for agreeing to meet," I said, sitting across from her. "Thank you for reaching out." She wrapped both hands around her coffee cup like she needed the warmth. When Vincent called and explained the situation, said Preston was working the same pattern again in Seattle, I knew I had to help. "Tell me what happened between you and Preston." She took a slow breath, organizing thoughts she'd probably organized 1,000 times before. "We met 7 years ago. I was CFO at Oregon University Medical Hospital. Preston was the new hire, brilliant cardiac surgeon, charming, younger than most department heads. He made an impression immediately." Her mouth tightened. "My marriage was struggling. 25 years, 2 kids already in college. My husband and I were basically roommates who shared a mortgage. The classic midlife crisis setup. I knew that feeling. The distance that grew so gradually, you didn't notice until you were strangers living under the same roof. Preston saw that." Audrey continued. "Or maybe he engineered it, I don't know anymore. He made me feel understood, important. Like I mattered beyond budget spreadsheets and board meetings. The affair started within 3 months. She said it clinically, like reading a medical chart. Detached. The only way to tell the story without drowning in it. 6 months in, he pitched the business idea. A medical equipment company, we'd source better quality supplies at lower costs, improve hospital procurement, make millions in the process. He called it a partnership between clinical expertise and financial management. Made it sound revolutionary. "And how much did you invest?" $400,000. My mother's inheritance. Everything she'd left me." Her jaw clenched. The equipment was real. The company was legitimate on paper. But the prices Preston charged were inflated by 3, sometimes 400%. And the contracts he negotiated somehow always seemed to benefit his other ventures. "When did you realize?" Too late. By the time I started asking questions, Preston had already structured everything to look like I was the one manipulating hospital contracts. When the internal investigation started, he had his lawyers ready. They convinced the board it was mutual misconduct, that I was equally guilty. I had to sign an NDA to avoid criminal charges. Her hands trembled slightly around the cup. "My husband filed for divorce when everything came out. The hospital terminated my position. I lost my job, my marriage, my reputation, and $400,000. Preston moved to San Francisco with a clean record and a new position, and did it again. See, at least twice more that I can confirm. San Francisco, then Denver. Maybe others I don't know about. She pulled out a folder from her bag. I've been building a file. Breaking my NDA could cost me legally, but I'm tired of watching him destroy people. She opened the folder. Inside were printouts, LinkedIn profiles, news articles, court records, financial documents. Photos of 3 women besides herself, all professional, well-dressed 40-something. All with that same tired look in their eyes. San Francisco, hospital administrator. Divorced, lost approximately $300,000. Denver, another hospital administrator. Same story, $250,000 gone. And now your wife in Seattle. The pattern was crystal clear when laid out like this. Hospital administrators, late 40s, married, assets. The same script playing out city after city, victim after victim. Why hasn't anyone stopped him? I asked. Shame, Audrey said simply. These women, myself included, would have to admit to affairs. Risk what's left of our careers and reputations. The NDAs are ironclad. The hospitals want to avoid scandal, and Preston's smart about keeping amounts below felony thresholds in most jurisdictions. She leaned forward. But if we could get multiple victims to testify together, build a federal wire fraud case instead of local criminal charges, maybe we could actually stop him. I want to do more than stop him, I said. I want to catch him in the act. Get him on record admitting what he's done. My wife doesn't know I know about the affair. She thinks her secret is safe. If I could get her to cooperate, wear a wire record, Preston confessing to the fraud, she'd have to flip on him, Audrey said slowly. Betray someone she thinks she's in love with. Why would she do that? Because I'll give her a choice. Help us take Preston down or go down as his accomplice. She's signed documents, co-signed the LLC, participated in fund transfers. Legally, she's as guilty as he is. Audrey studied me with those tired, sharp eyes. You're not doing this just to save your marriage. My marriage ended 8 months ago. I'm doing this because he needs to be stopped. Because you deserve justice. Because those other women deserve to know they weren't alone. And because my wife deserves to understand exactly what kind of man she's been protecting. Audrey was quiet for a long moment. Then she slid the folder across the table. I'll testify, she said. I'll break my NDA. I'll contact the other victims and see if they'll come forward. I don't care about the legal consequences anymore. I just want Preston Vaughn facing real justice for once in his life. I looked at the folder. 4 women's faces staring up at me from the documents. 4 lives dismantled by the same man who was currently dismantling mine. He will, I said. We'll make sure of it. Because this wasn't just about my marriage anymore. This wasn't about hurt feelings or betrayed trust or 25 years wasted. This was about stopping a predator. And we finally had an army strong enough to do it. The Seattle Grace Hospital annual fundraising gala was the kind of night where the city's medical elite gathered beneath crystal chandeliers to applaud their own brilliance. Diane had been excited for weeks. I had been preparing for 3 days. She bought a red silk dress that cost more than my weekly paycheck. Scheduled a hair appointment. Talked endlessly about board members, wealthy donors, and department heads angling for promotion. That morning I rented a tuxedo. The clerk asked if it was for a wedding. Something like that, I told him. Now we stood in the Fairmont Olympics Grand Ballroom, the same hotel where she'd spent Monday afternoons in room 847 with Preston Vaughn, and I watched her perform. She glided between hospital administrators, laughing lightly, kissing cheeks, embodying the devoted executive's wife. She was still the woman who had caught my eye 25 years ago, still beautiful, still magnetic, still capable of lighting up a room. I just hadn't realized that glow included 8 months of betrayal with a cardiac surgeon. Vincent was outside in a valet uniform arranged through an old private investigator contact. Bryn stood near the bar in black, poised and watchful, playing my supportive sister while serving as legal witness. Under my rented tuxedo shirt pressed flat against my chest, a recording device captured everything. Washington was a one-party consent state. Every word spoken tonight would be documented. There's Dr. Von, Diane said, touching my arm. Her eyes had already found him across the room. They always did. I should introduce you. He's been incredibly helpful with board politics. Lead the way. She laced her fingers through mine, her wedding ring flashing beneath the chandeliers, and guided me through the crowd. Preston stood at the bar among surgeons in tailored suits, radiating the confidence of men who held beating hearts in their hands. He was tall, fit, composed, the kind of doctor patients trusted instantly. His gaze found Diane before we reached him. I saw it recognition heat, then the swift shift to professional neutrality. He was practiced. Comfortable, Dr. Von, Diane said warmly. This is my husband, Caleb Thornton. He extended his hand. Mr. Thornton. A pleasure. His grip was firm. His eyes assessed me in seconds, construction worker mid-50s, not part of this world. I watched him dismiss me as harmless. Diane speaks highly of you, I said evenly. She's invaluable to the hospital. He replied, smiling at her in a way that suggested something private. I'm sure. I let silence linger. She's told me so much about you these past few months. I feel like I already know you. A flicker crossed his face. Your work, I continued casually. Your investment advice. Your ventures. Summit Healthcare Partners. Diane mentioned your co-founders. The color drained from him. Diane's grip tightened. Caleb. I've been studying how that company operates, I said, lowering my voice slightly. Pricing structures, vendor contracts, transfer patterns. Construction teaches you to respect documentation. I don't know what you're implying, Preston said. I know everything, I replied quietly. Every meeting, every transfer, every hotel room. Fairmont Olympic. Room 847. Monday afternoons. 2.5 hours on average. Summit Healthcare Partners, registered March 20th. Co-signed by you and my wife. $180,000 transferred from our joint accounts in 6 months. Diane made a small, strangled sound. Preston's charm dissolved. His eyes hardened. You don't know what you're dealing with. Try me. He leaned closer, voice sharp. I have friends, board members, city council. I'm a respected cardiac surgeon. You're a construction worker. His lip curled faintly. Who do you think they'll believe? I smiled. Because he had just handed me exactly what I needed, recorded, preserved. Let's find out, I said. Then I raised my voice just enough for nearby guests to glance over. Very nice meeting you, Dr. Vaughn. Enjoy the evening. I turned and walked away without looking back, leaving them frozen beneath crystal light and polished marble. Behind me, panic spread in subtle ripples. Vincent stood near the entrance, arms crossed, watchful. He caught my eye and gave a single nod. Phase 1 was complete. I stepped outside into the cool night air, the ballroom's music muffled behind heavy doors. My pulse finally began to slow. Everything had unfolded exactly as planned. Diane followed minutes later, her heels striking the pavement sharply. What have you done? She demanded, voice trembling. Nothing, I said calmly. Yet. The car waited at the curb. Vincent opened the door for her with professional neutrality, as though he were just another valet, not a witness to a collapsing marriage. Inside, the silence was suffocating. You're embarrassing yourself, she hissed. You have no idea how powerful Preston is. I'm aware, I replied. She stared at me, searching for uncertainty. She found none. Caleb, she said, softer now. We can talk about this at home. We are talking. Her mask slipped just slightly. Fear crept into her eyes. What she didn't know was that the device under my shirt was still recording. Every accusation, every threat, every admission. The legal battle ahead would not rely on rumors or whispered suspicions. It would rest on evidence, financial records, corporate filings, transaction logs, and now recorded words spoken in anger. She thought tonight had been about humiliation. It hadn't. It had been about leverage. Vincent handed me the car keys at the valet stand. His eyes asked a silent question. You okay? I gave him a single nod. It's done. Diane followed me across the parking garage without speaking. Her heels clicked against concrete, echoing in the cavernous space. Still in shock, maybe, or already calculating her next defense. I opened the passenger door for her, 25 years of muscle memory, and she slid in mechanically, that red dress pooling around her legs. I closed the door, walked around to the driver's side, got in, started the engine. The silence between us was already suffocating. I pulled out of the Fairmont's garage and onto the wet Seattle streets. Rain had started while we were inside, soft at first, then building to a steady rhythm against the windshield. Diane sat rigid beside me, staring straight ahead, hands folded in her lap. She didn't speak until we merged onto I-5 heading north toward Bellevue. When she finally found her voice, it came out tight, controlled, still trying to manage the situation. What the hell just happened back there? That was me being honest for the first time in a week. You embarrassed me in front of... I embarrassed you. My hands tightened on the wheel. That's really what you're concerned about right now. Kroglib, whatever you think you know. Stop. The word came out harder than I'd intended. Don't insult me with denials. Silence. Just rain and road noise and the sound of 25 years cracking apart. I saw you, I said quietly. At the parking garage. Saturday, 8 days ago. With him. I don't know what you're talking about. I pulled onto the shoulder. Right there on I-5, rain-pouring traffic rushing past. Put the car in park. Turned to face her directly. Diane, I have video. 8 months of surveillance. Hotel check-ins. Financial records. LLC documents with your signature. I have everything. The color drained from her face. All that careful control evaporated. Oh God. How long? My voice stayed level, clinical. Before you insult me with explanations, just tell me. How long have you been sleeping with him? She stared at her hands. Her wedding ring caught light from passing headlights. 8 months, she whispered. Since February. Valentine's Day. How romantic. Caleb, please. And the money. The $180,000 you stole. He said it was an investment. I pulled Audrey's folder from inside my jacket. Dropped it in her lap. He's a professional con artist. Open it. Her hands trembled as she opened the folder. I watched her face as she read. Watched the horror settle in. Photos of 3 other women. Portland, San Francisco, Denver. All hospital administrators. All married. All mid-40s. Same pattern. Same promises. Same lies. No, this can't be. Preston wouldn't. I showed her my phone. Screenshots Brady had recovered from cloud backups. Preston's messages to previous victims. You're the only one who understands me. We can have a real future together. Just trust me with this investment. Word for word identical to messages he'd sent her. She scrolled through them, hands shaking. I watched the fantasy shatter. Watched her realize she'd never been special. Just another mark in a pattern going back years. He doesn't love me. Hollow. Broken. No. He never did. No. I destroyed everything for... Her voice cracked. Oh God. Oh God, what have I done? She started crying. Deep, wrenching sobs. I felt nothing. I want you out of the house by tomorrow. Well, I've accepted. I filed for separation. Bryn's my attorney. Monday the court freezes our accounts. Divorce papers come next week. You can't just... I can. You committed adultery, financial fraud, theft, 8 months of lies. I paused. Maybe longer. She went very still. What do you mean? Evan. I kept my eyes on the road as I pulled back into traffic. He's not mine, is he? Silence. I'm type O, you're type B, Evan's type A. That's genetically impossible if I'm his biological father. Caleb, please. Who was it? Someone before we married. Does it even matter anymore? She didn't answer, just kept crying. 20 minutes later, I pulled into our driveway. The house I'd bought. Renovated. Made into a home. The house where I'd raised another man's son. Get out! She stumbled from the car, mascara running, that expensive red dress soaked from rain. I watched her fumble with her keys, disappear through the front door. I sat there, engine idling, rain drumming on the roof. Tomorrow, everything would change. Monday, the legal machinery would start. By next week, divorce papers would be served. By next month, it would be over. But tonight, I just sat in my driveway and felt the weight of 25 years turning to ash. Not satisfaction, not victory, just a hollow, aching emptiness where my marriage used to be. The DNA test results arrived Monday morning via encrypted email. I sat in Bryn's office staring at the laptop screen, reading the lines over and over. Medical terminology, lab certification numbers, charts showing genetic markers that meant nothing to me, and at the bottom, in bold, probability of paternity, 0.00%. Caleb. Bryn's voice came from somewhere far away. I closed the laptop, sat back, looked at my hands. He's not my son. 20 years. Every birthday party where I'd carried the cake while everyone sang. Every baseball game where I'd taught him to swing level, keep his eye on the ball. Every parent-teacher conference where teachers told me what a good kid he was, how proud I must be. Every time he'd said, "I love you, Dad," before bed. "I'm so sorry," Bryn said quietly. "Are you?" I stood, walked to the window. Downtown Seattle stretched below buildings and traffic and people living their normal Monday mornings. Because I'm not sure how I'm supposed to feel right now. However you feel is valid. The blood types, I said, still staring out the window. I looked it up last week. Type O and Type B can't produce Type A. It's genetically impossible. I turned to face her. 20 years of diapers and homework and parent-teacher conferences. 20 years teaching him to ride a bike, drive a car, be a good man. And none of it was real. "Stop." Bryn's voice was sharp. She stood, came around her desk. "Don't do that. Don't let Diane's lie poison what you built with that boy. It was built on your choice to love him, to show up, to be there." She pointed at the closed laptop. "That test tells you about biology. It doesn't tell you about fatherhood. You've been his father in every way that matters. But he's not. He's your son, Caleb. You raised him. Biology doesn't determine that. Love does. Time does. Presence does." Her eyes were fierce. "That number on the screen, that's not zero. What you've given him for 20 years, that's everything." I sank back into the chair. Felt something in my chest crack open. How do I tell him?" My voice came out rough. "That his whole life is built on his mother's lie." Bryn sat on the edge of her desk. "Does he need to know right now? He deserves the truth. He's 20. Away at college. Senior year, the most critical time for his development, his career plans, his sense of identity." She paused. Telling him now would destroy him. So I just lie by omission, Haikyung. No. You wait. Until after graduation. Until he's stable, employed, ready to process something this devastating. Until you're ready to have that conversation. I thought about Evan. Engineering senior. Job interviews coming up. His whole future ahead of him. We wait, I said finally, and we protect that choice. Bryn pulled up a document on her computer. Non-disclosure clause in the divorce settlement. Diane is prohibited from telling Evan about the paternity. If she violates it, she faces financial penalties and contempt charges. That feels wrong, like I'm covering up the truth. You're not covering it up. You're controlling when and how Evan learns something that will fundamentally reshape his understanding of himself. Bryn turned the screen toward me. You can tell him later, when he's ready, when you're ready. But Diane doesn't get to weaponize that truth in anger or spite. You decide, not her. I stared at the clause, read it 3 times. On my terms, I said, not hers. Exactly. Bryn opened another folder. Let's talk asset division. She walked me through it. Clinical, professional, 25 years reduced to spreadsheets. The house, $800,000 in equity would go to me. Dad's infidelity clause. The irony wasn't lost on me. My father, who'd had his own affair that produced Vincent, had still thought to protect me from the same fate. Retirement accounts, $1.4 million total. I'd keep $1.2 million. Diane would keep only her own 401k, about $200,000. She'd forfeited the joint savings through fraud and theft. My construction business, $500,000 in value, stayed entirely mine. Built before and during the marriage, but she'd forfeited any claim through adultery. No alimony. At-fault divorce plus financial fraud meant she walked away with almost nothing. "Ma, the emergency hearing is at 2, Bryn said. Judge Williams will freeze the joint accounts today. Diane won't be able to touch another dollar without court permission. And the divorce papers, served by end of week." She paused. "This is really happening, Caleb. Once these accounts freeze, there's no going back. Are you ready?" I thought about Evan away at college, unaware that his family was imploding. Unaware that his mother had lied about his paternity for 20 years. Unaware that I was fighting to protect him from truths he wasn't ready to handle. I thought about Diane, who'd stolen 20 years of truth from both of us. Who'd built our family on lies I was still uncovering. I thought about Preston Vaughn, who'd destroyed multiple lives for money and ego, and would have walked away clean if I hadn't stopped him. "I'm ready," I said. "Let's end this." Bryn slid the papers across her desk. I picked up the pen and signed. Monday evening, I sat alone in the house that was finally just mine. The silence felt different now. Not empty, just quiet. Diane had been gone since Saturday night. Her things were still upstairs, clothes, makeup, shoes, but she was gone. Staying at some hotel downtown, probably. Using the credit card I hadn't frozen yet. That would change tomorrow morning. My phone buzzed on the kitchen counter. Voicemail notification. Diane's number. I stared at it for a long moment. Debated not listening. But curiosity, or maybe strategy, won out. I hit play. At first I thought she was calling me. Then I heard the rustling sounds. Muffled movement. The hollow acoustic of a phone in a purse or pocket. Pocket dial. She'd called me by accident. And then I heard her voice trembling, talking to someone else. "Preston, please pick up, please." My hand tightened on the phone. Ringing sounds through the recording. Once, twice, 3 times. Then a click. "What?" Preston's voice came through cold. Flat. Nothing like the charming surgeon who'd smiled at me at the gala. "Oh, thank God." Diane's voice was thick with tears. "Caleb, he knows everything. About us, about the money, everything. He froze the accounts, filed for divorce. I told you not to call me. Preston, what do we do? I don't know what to... We." His voice turned sharp. "There is no we anymore, Diane." Silence. Then Diane's voice, smaller. Broken. "What do you mean?" "I mean you were careless. You let yourself get caught. I can't be associated with any of this." "But you said we'd start over together. California. The practice we'd build." I said a lot of things. Matter of fact, like he was discussing weather. "Look, this was fun while it lasted. But you've become a liability. A liability." Her voice cracked. "Preston, I left everything for you. My marriage, The LLC is in your name. The transfers came from your accounts. Your signature is on everything." Each word was a door slamming shut. "Good luck explaining that to your lawyer. You can't just Preston, please. Watch me." Click. The line went dead. For several seconds, there was nothing but the sound of Diane breathing. Then she started sobbing. Deep, wrenching sounds that might have moved me 2 weeks ago. Now I just listened clinically. Evidence. Every word was evidence. "Oh, God," she whispered to herself through the tears. "He never loved me. He was just using me all along. Oh, God, what have I done?" The voicemail cut off. Time limit reached. I stood in my kitchen phone, still pressed to my ear, staring at nothing. Then I played it again, listened to the whole thing a second time. Preston's cold dismissal. Diane's realization hitting in real time. The confirmation that everything Audrey had told me was true. Preston Vaughn was a professional. He'd done this before. He'd do it again, unless we stopped him. I saved the voicemail. Forwarded it to myself via email. Backed it up 3 different ways. This was exactly what we needed. A knock at the door pulled me out of my thoughts. I opened it to find Vincent holding 2 bags of Chinese takeout. "Figured you hadn't eaten," he said, walking past me into the kitchen like he'd been doing it for years instead of weeks. I've been eating. Coffee and rage don't count as a meal. He started unpacking containers. Kung Pao chicken, fried rice, egg rolls. Despite everything, I almost smiled. Since when are you my nutritionist? Since I'm your brother and somebody needs to make sure you don't self-destruct. He grabbed plates from the cabinet, somehow already knew where they were. You look like hell, by the way. Thanks. What are brothers for? We sat at the kitchen table. Vincent handed me a fork. Something happened, he said. Not a question. I pulled out my phone. Diane pocket dialed me about an hour ago. Left a voicemail. I hit play. Vincent's face went darker with every word. By the time Preston said, "Watch me," and hung up, his jaw was clenched tight. "Oh, that son of a bitch," he said quietly. "Stop." Preston just gift-wrapped us a confession and made Diane desperate. Vincent looked up at me. Desperate people cooperate. That's what I'm counting on. I took a bite of chicken. First real food I'd eaten all day. Give her one more day. Let her realize she's completely alone. Preston's gone. I'm gone. The money's about to be gone. Then we approach her about the wire. You think she'll do it? What choice does she have? I picked up my phone, played the voicemail one more time. Diane's voice. He never loved me. He was just using me. She's finally seeing what we've known all along. Preston Vaughn is a predator, and she was just another mark. Think she'll throw him under the bus? She already has. We just need to make it official. Vincent nodded slowly, picked up his beer. You know what's weird? What? I don't even hate her anymore. I said it before I'd really thought about it. I just feel done. Vincent studied me for a moment, then nodded. That's maturity or exhaustion. Sometimes they're the same thing. My phone buzzed. Text from Bryn. Emergency hearing approved. Accounts frozen as of 8 a.m. tomorrow. She's cut off. I showed Vincent. He raised his beer. To consequences. I picked up mine. To consequences. We clinked bottles. And for the first time in 2 weeks, since that Saturday afternoon in the parking garage when my world had imploded, I almost smiled. Tomorrow we'd approach Diane